Hey all, here OS Reviews. A few months back, we checked out a MP3 player called the M4 that I was pretty impressed with because it was affordable, had a 4-inch touchscreen display, and was actually running on a version of Android underneath the hood. Allows you to connect to Wi-Fi, even browse the web, in addition to playing back music, of course. Well, today we're taking a look at another model that might just be its upgraded, bigger sibling. It's called the PECSU PS5, and as that name kind of implies, this time around it has a 5-inch display instead of 4 inches. This model has not only one, but two 3.5mm jacks, allowing you to share the music with a friend or family member. Of course, wired connection will also give you higher fidelity or resolution of music than wireless Bluetooth can deliver. Now this thing sells for around $70, which is a little bit more expensive than the M4 by about $10 to $20, but it does have, again, more powerful internals, inclusive of a octa-core MediaTek processor compared to the quad-core from the M4. Also has 3 gigabytes of RAM inside. That is more than the 1 gig on the M4, along with 32 gigs of built-in storage, which is further expandable via micro SD card slot up to 1 TB. Dual-band Wi-Fi, built-in Bluetooth 5.0, it's all pretty much here, although the resolution of the screen is still going to be a little lower than on our phones, but still has IPS technology, so it should have decent viewing angles, also rocking a 2,500 milliamp hour capacity cell. Some additional accessories that you get in the box include a Type-C to full-size Type-A adapter, so you can even load back, say, a thumb disk and the media player can read it back directly, a standard USB Type-C charging and sync cable. You also get some bundled free headphones, but obviously for the best quality, if you're getting a dedicated player, you should probably use higher-end headphones, a quick user guide, and even an extra film screen protector if you wear down the one that comes pre-applied. Build quality is quite good. It's made out of tempered glass in the front and the back, along with aluminum rails, although it does make it also a little bit more fragile and a bit of a fingerprint magnet, but it is what it is. There is no case that is included in the box. Now, on the frame of the device, you will have access to a volume rocker and also a power key. There's just a microphone and speaker along with the Type-C port for charging on the bottom. Taking a closer look at the front here, including the display, it does have a little bit of a larger chin at the bottom, but overall it still has a fairly modern design, especially with the top left and right sides of the device. It is a 16:9 aspect ratio as opposed to the ultra-wide 2:1s that we are looking at with smartphones, but still is giving us a pretty comfortable experience when looking at content and interacting with the menus. By default, we have a handful of music playing apps and even some social media apps, including Kobo Books for reading back, again, ebooks, iHeartRadio, TikTok Lite. Music from Amazon, Spotify, Tidal are all built on in, even Audible for audiobooks, Pandora as well. So you can definitely access a lot of these streaming services if you have an account and just log on in. Just like the M4 though, this is basically all the apps that you get preloaded, and there is no Google Play Store that you get out of the box because they're trying to still save the majority of space for music playback and prevents the player from getting slow over time. But again, since it really is running on Android, if you wanted to, you can technically sideload apps from your computer, for instance, or even download an APK from the browser, and it will still install. You will find just a browser, FM radio, and then a handful of other utility apps, including obviously the music player and video players, which are designed for playing back offline local content. So these are the songs and music that you're storing on the device itself, and then playing back even if you are severed from the internet. So just taking a kind of a final size comparison between the two, here we can, again, just see them one more time side by side, and you get the idea of that difference there. Both are using kind of the same placement, in fact, of the headphone jack and also the micro SD card slot. Now, if you go under settings, you can technically see that it is running on Android 8.1, so definitely not the newest in the world, but that doesn't really matter because you're just using this for music, for streaming some songs, and that is perfectly sufficient in terms of the UI still feels clean and modern enough. About 25 gigs is free after some of those apps are installed, by the way, so you get that remaining, which you can then further expand. Other things, of course, that we are lacking on this player would include cameras of any sort. So you won't find a front-facing nor a rear camera, since it's, again, meant really just for music, but maybe if they wanted in the future to add a front-facing camera, if you want to also use it for video chatting, that could be a nice touch. It is, again, a pretty decent IPS LCD panel, which offers fairly good-looking colors in terms of their vibrancy and nice contrast, even though it's not going to be as deep as OLED. Wallpaper that comes by default is really reminiscent of something something from an older Sony Xperia phone, but you can always change that, and they do give you a handful of attractive looking options which you can always tweak and set as your own. Again, all of them show up the vibrancy of the screen quite well. This little dot that we see here on the side also is reminiscent of what's on iPhones. They also call it Assistive Touch, and it's basically an app here that allows you to also do things like lock the screen, access your favorites, go back home, just to make it a little easier to operate, since some of those controls, for instance, you can also hide from the main display, and you can still tap here if you desire, or you can turn off this Assistive Touch if you don't need to use it. The overall fluidity of the UI also seems to be pretty good, since it is rather lightweight in terms of what you're doing, but the 3 gigs of RAM allows you to do multitasking here just fine. You can jump between currently open apps, whether it's a video or an ebook, and it doesn't become too slow or uncomfortable to use. So optimization here is done well, even though it may not be as powerful as a flagship smartphone, but definitely more than enough to run on this little MP3 player. Other things on here include a calendar app you can also find, handful of other standard Android utility tools like the clock for alarms and stopwatch, all pretty familiar stuff. And you can also take a look at, again, this in terms of the auto rotation. It does have an accelerometer built on in, so it really is just like a smartphone packaged in the form here as an MP3 player with its software. And again, you are able to watch back videos. There is a variety of different tools on here that allows you to play back clips that you may have locally on here, interact with the files that you're watching. One of the default music players that is baked in, which is called Power Amp, I do really like in terms of its UI, because it is quite fresh. When you're able to kind of swipe between different songs and content, you're able to kind of easily find artists, and it relies on all of these gestures and crazy animations to flow between the pages, as you can see there, and it really is quite beautiful in terms of how everything flows. Other tools allows you to control things like EQ, which you can fine tweak to your liking. So when it comes to the most important part of this device, like any other music player, the sound quality, thankfully it is quite good. For one, there is not too much distortion or really static. The connection is really tight, no hints of any static or hissing when you're listening to music, and overall the split function in terms of sharing the music with a friend or family member also works exactly as you would expect. What's also pretty interesting here is you're able to even rotate the player basically 180 degrees, so you can hold it like this. So you can put the player into your pocket like this with the headphone jack pointing upwards, which is pretty ergonomic, and it will still work when you take it out and control things. Or of course you can flip it down, just whatever your preference is. It's quite flexible. Sound reproduction over here is quite detailed and faithful to the actual recording, and it gives you plenty of volume as well. I never felt it was too quiet. Solid sounding headphones along with a high-res track recorded in FLAC, for instance. You are getting a very pleasant experience, plenty of detail, and nice controls for you to then further tweak the sound as you would like. So quite a good playback experience. All the files in terms of music and content loads back quickly. Again, the elegance here of Android is that you're able to also try out other music playing apps that you would like, and it allows you to, for instance, if you don't like the UI of one particular app, you can easily customize it or find another option, as well as sort by alphabetical, by artist, by genre. All of those things you can further tweak and adjust, versus a, let's say, proprietary player, which you are kind of locked down to the one option that you get out of the box. Just like the M4, we do also have a file manager along with a wireless file sharing app built on in. So you can connect to Wi-Fi and use this to transfer files like music between this and a computer, and vice versa. So you don't have to necessarily connect the Type-C cable into your computer to drag and drop the files over. You can also do that wirelessly. And again, the presence of Bluetooth means that you are able to listen to music with wireless headphones if you prefer, but that kind of defeats the point of having a high-res, hi-fi player in the first place, because this will get you the highest quality of sound, but it's there if you need it. Now here's a quick look at the web browser. So it does have overall a pretty sensitive, again, keyboard, very similar to any smartphone here. And if we try and load back a web page, you can see that it will also open here just fine, with decent antenna reception strength as well, both for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth alike. So if you want to occasionally check back the news, the weather, or something quick like lyrics of a song, or again, obviously for streaming music, that's where having the built-in Wi-Fi can be quite handy. And by the way, that browser is probably going to be your best bet if you're trying to, say, watch videos, whether it's going to be Netflix if you wanted to, or YouTube, since the YouTube app, as you can see here, isn't built in by default. But again, you can install the APK, sideload it yourself, and bring that app over if you really wanted to. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of this PECSU PS5 5-inch Android-based DAP, or digital audio player, and again, it is just showing that even these MP3 players are getting smarter and smarter these days, now by combining functions pretty much of a phone into a music device. It still offers really good sound quality. Particularly, I like the split 3.5mm jacks for sharing music with a friend or family member, but still preserving really high resolution audio playback, and now it just gets you more features than ever. If interested, you can check out more details in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the PECSU PS5.